All right, this hangout is on air. And hello, everyone. I am Jose Betancourt, also known as JVB on the internet and the podcast scene. And with me, I have Derrick, also goes by Derrick Gott. What's going on, dude?
Nothing much. What's going on, guys?
Uh, you know, we're here to talk about gaming, of course, but gaming relating to a condition, a sleep disorder known as sleep apnea. And you and I have it.
Yes.
And some people more than others, and we'll explain how that goes. But sleep apnea, there's a few different types, but the type that I have, and I think the type that you have, Derrick, is obstructive sleep apnea.
Yes. Yes. Obstructive.
Yeah, and what that is while you're sleeping, your breathing, your passageway is obstructed by the tissue behind the back of your throat and your tongue, I believe. Is that exactly
Right. Yeah. That's
how it
what it
is?
is. Usually, it's when your muscles relax and your body actually falls asleep. Your throat will actually close up. You know, it normally starts off open, and as you fall asleep, it relaxes and it'll actually close and actually cut off your air supply.
Oh yeah, yeah. And the reason why I wanted to bring this up is at one point I did do a podcast. I used to do my own solo podcast. Didn't last too long, but I did share that personal experience in the podcast, and I wanted to do the same thing on YouTube because obviously it has a wider reach on video, and more people can probably relate uh, via YouTube their experiences. And in some cases, some people might not even know that they have it. So hopefully, by showing this video, you and I, Derrick, we can help someone. And Derrick, you told me quite a few times that my podcast actually helped you to go get tested.
Yeah, it did actually. I used to wonder, man, I don't feel good in the mornings and I don't sleep good, and I felt like I was wearing out, like I was getting old fast. And I'm 36. I know, yeah, I should feel old at times, but not every day when I wake up. So I listened to your podcast and I listened to all of the symptoms you said that, people have and stuff you were feeling. And I was like, yo, that sounds like everything I have. And so I simply went and got tested, and sure enough, turns out I have sleep apnea.
And sometimes there are times people don't realize it, and it can be life-threatening. And that's another reason why we're bringing this up today. So let's start from the very beginning. My story goes that when I was about 10 years old, my grandmother heard me snoring, and she said she suddenly heard, she didn't hear it anymore, and she assumed that I woke up. Then all of a sudden, about a few seconds later, she heard me snore again, but it was very abrupt, and it sounded as if I was choking, she said. And so she took me to a doctor, and at the time, I'm 42 years old, and at the time they figured it was my tonsils. They took out my tonsils, they did something with my adenoids, and they figured, all right, he'll be okay. I was overweight as a kid. I'm overweight now. I'm 6'2", about 258, 260. So I'm overweight, even though I look like a physical freak. No. But that's not a good thing anyway. I didn't really think about it growing up until my early 30s, where I would literally wake up choking, grabbing my throat, grasping for air, and I used to wonder what the hell's going on. And I remember there was one time where I jumped out of bed grasping, but I'm half asleep still, and I reached out, and I reached out. When I reached out, my hand went right through the window, through my
Oof.
bedroom window. And this was in the dead of winter also. So,
Oh,
and I remember finally opening my eyes, and my wife, of course, she freaked out. Finally opened my eyes. I had walked around almost the entirety of the bed, and then I started breathing, and I was like, something's got to give. I got to get checked, and I finally did get checked. But at the time, my insurance wasn't going to cover a lot of the things, and then we were thinking of moving to Florida, so I put that on hold. And it wasn't until I got to Florida where I began to get anxiety attacks. Actually, let me rewind a little bit, because I used to go to work, and I'm an elevator technician, and I used to doze off on top of the elevators.
Oh, that's not good.
Like I'd be holding the freaking, be holding the cables, and I start nodding off. And my partner was like, "Dude, what the hell's wrong with you? Are you on drugs? You were drinking?" And I was like, "I don't know, bro. I don't party. I don't go out. I don't smoke. I don't drink. Maybe I'm just not getting enough sleep." And at the time, I was doing a lot of podcasting. I was still doing an apprenticeship once a week. So we would go to school up to 9 p.m. at night. And then I would get up real early, like 5 in the morning, to go to work. So I figured it was fatigue and blah, blah, blah. All up until I started getting these anxiety attacks. So I'll end it there, continue after you go, Derrick.
Okay. I had pretty much the same experiences. I would wake up in the morning and I'd say, man, I felt like I just closed my eyes, and that's one of the big signs of sleep apnea, is where you feel like you didn't get any sleep. I would wake up in the morning and it would take me a long time to wake up. It would take, I'd say on average, 15 minutes for me to fully come out of being asleep. I started noticing things with my health, as far as I would get headaches a lot. I found out I have silent migraines, which are, as the doctor told me, if you're going to have a migraine, it's the one to have, because you don't have the pain, but you have all the symptoms of it. I would get real sensitive to light, and I thought, I had a bunch of changes in my vision, and I would get numbness and tingling in my arms and feet, and that was from extended periods of lack of oxygen at night while I was asleep, so to say.
Wow.
And so I heard your podcast, and I was at work, and I thought, I think I have that. I'm going to go get checked. Well, I kind of put it off a little bit, thinking, I probably don't. But then the real eye-opener for me was I went to sleep one night, got up, and I drove out of town. I drove about 2 hours to go to a deal for work. And I was in a company vehicle, and I was driving home. And I'd made this drive 100 times before. There were periods of the drive where I don't remember driving the distance.
Wow, dude.
And when I finally got into town, I could tell I was getting tired. I could really feel I was, you start fighting off sleep. You're shaking your head, and you're moving your legs. And I rolled down the window. None of that worked. I stopped at a red light.
Yourself.
Right, yeah. Turned the radio up, slapped myself. Turned the radio up, and I'm sitting at the red light. And that was it. That's the last thing I remember. I woke up. The light was green. All the cars were gone. There was a truck behind me honking. And I was like, this is not good. So I went ahead and, I took your advice you'd give me a couple times, and I called the doctor. And I went in for the sleep study. And sure enough, I turned out to have sleep apnea.
Wow.
And
how many times did they... what is it, a second? No, how many times? A minute, I believe?
A minute, yeah. They go by a minute. I would quit breathing about 1 to 1.5 times per minute. So I average anywhere from 60 to 70 times per hour I quit breathing. And
wow, dude.
Yeah, and the real big problem is when your oxygen drops. Like my oxygen would drop to about 65%, which is your body. Most people, their oxygen when they're asleep drops to about 90%. So mine was dropping to 65%. The human body can basically stop functioning at less than 70%. So
wow,
it's,
dude.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that's what killed Ryan Davis from Giant Bomb.
Yes.
Was
Killed
sleep apnea.
Reggie White.
Mm-hmm.
Killed who was it? It was another famous celebrity who died from sleep apnea, and it's something that, as you stated, the body shuts down. There are times where I'll still wake up if I doze off and my heart is beating 100 miles an hour.
Yep.
And that's your heart working to freaking keep your body going, because you're not breathing. And you try holding your breath for an extended amount of time, and you're going to be gasping. So imagine that during your sleep, and your body's just freaking out, waking up, freaking out, and you're freaking out because you have no idea what's going on. Now, for me, I don't remember exactly how many times I stopped. I believe it was in my 40s or something like that. It wasn't extreme, but it was just enough. And as you were stating, doesn't necessarily mean the amount of times, is how long you stop
Right.
and your oxygen levels. And you know, we're a gaming podcast, and since '78 I've been gaming. You know, ever since Asteroids and blah blah blah. And so, as a gamer, you're accustomed to staying up very late, even during weekdays, either during school or during work time. So you're in that mode a lot of times of not getting proper sleep, and that can cause, or that can kind of mask some of the symptoms. And
See, that's
that's
what I thought. I thought it was for me
exactly,
was lack of sleep.
exactly same thing here. And I was like, all right, I do a million podcasts. I'm gaming all the time, going to events, going to school, blah, blah, blah. I was extremely busy. So I was like, you know what? That has to be it. Just not sleeping the way I should. Then when I'm sleeping 8 hours or more, I wake up feeling like crap. One
Yep.
day I was driving to Miami because I was living in Florida at the time. And I was driving from Fort Lauderdale to Miami. And I used to start around 6 o'clock, 6 a.m. So at 5 a.m., here I am driving in the highway, barely anybody on. And all of a sudden, my legs, it started from my neck to my chest. Then all of a sudden, my legs got numb as I'm driving. So I'm freaking out, like, what the hell's going on? And I managed to get off the highway. I still had enough feeling on my feet to hit the brakes. I pulled to the side, hit the brakes, regained the feeling in my legs, and got out of the car gasping. And I thought I had a heart attack or something. So I was like, all right, not too far away from work, and I'm at the time we were putting elevators at a hospital. So I was like, I can get to the hospital. I know my coworker's going to be there, and he can help me. So I took the risk and drove to the hospital another 20 freaking minutes. I started to get that feeling again. So I had the windows open. I'm smacking myself. I'm trying to not to pay attention. And the night before, I was in class till 9 p.m., as I stated earlier. So I was drinking Red Bull and stuff like that. So I figured, all right, maybe I'm still reacting to it or something. And so about 3 blocks away from the hospital, I had to pull over. It happened again. I called my coworker. He rushes over. We go to the hospital. They're trying to find if I had a stroke, a heart attack, everything. They're like, we can't find anything obvious. Maybe you had an anxiety attack. Have you ever had it? I said no. They were like, all right, you got to, we recommend you go see your doctor. So I see my doctor, my regular physician. My man right away wanted to give me Prozac. No, actually, it wasn't him. He gave me some other antidepressant. And I said, what does that got to do with anything? He goes, this will help you calm down, blah, blah, blah. I said, you do realize I work on elevators. Yes, you cannot take these while you're on elevators. I said, so you're telling me I can't go to work? I said, no. Physically, I'm not hurt, thank God, but I'm not taking these freaking Cymbalta. That's what it was. And I was like, I'm not taking it. So as soon as I left his office, I called around for another physician, found one from Brooklyn. And this dude was straight up. I mean, he was straight to the point. He goes, I'm not giving you any pills. We have no idea what's wrong with you. Please tell me everything about your medical history. It wasn't until the end when I told him that I had apnea, and his eyebrow went up, and he goes, wait a minute. He goes, I'm not a specialist, but I'm going to send you to a specialist. He goes, maybe we have something. Because nobody could find anything as to what was going on. Go to the specialist, and then they set me up for an appointment. I do the sleep study, which I could barely sleep because I have all type of things attached on me and everything.
Yep.
And you're sleeping in a hospital, and somebody's watching you, so it's totally uncomfortable. And so it took a little while to get the results and to get some type of solution. So his solution right away the sleep specialist, he tells me, I'm gonna prescribe Prozac. So I'm like, you too? He goes, look, this will help you to come. I said, I am not taking fucking Prozac. Don't even fill it out. Oh, no, 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 no. I said, dude, do not fill it out. I'm not going to take it. So you're wasting your time. I said, you're wasting your time and you're wasting my time. I know I'm not freaking depressed. So he's like, oh, this has nothing to do about being depressed. It'll help you. I said, no, I want to know what's wrong. So we finally get fitted for a mask. Did they have to go to your house?
No, actually, we went with one, probably the same company, because there was a company that covers the United States, and they'll actually come to your house and set you up and fit you and everything and test, you know. But I ended up going with a local company here, so I can just run over there and if I needed a mask, I just stop by and pick it up.
Okay. I got a website, 1-800-CPAP or something like that. That's where I order my replacements. And it's funny, we're like talking about freaking mask replacements and stuff, like two old men. But no, they came with the machine in my house, put the proper air pressure, and fitted me for a mask. And it's they call it a CPAP machine. It blows air through a mask so that the air keeps your muscles or that tissue. It gives it enough pressure where it doesn't drop, so that you have a clear passageway to breathe. And right. Some of the things that they were telling me, the dangers of sleep apnea, they were saying was, and I had to do a lot of this research on my own, was anxiety. The other one was, anxiety, panic attacks, hardening of the arteries, high blood pressure, weight gain, your memory loss. There were times, literally, when I was doing my apprenticeship, that I would have to read something like 4 freaking times because I'm like, I'm looking at the words, I know what they mean, I just can't concentrate, I can't grasp what the hell I just read, and it was frustrating.
That's exactly right.
I was like, what the hell's going on with me? And the mask, and I'm gonna show mine in a second. Do you have yours, Derrick?
Yeah, I have mine. I have mine right here. I took the valve off so I could put it on and still talk through it.
No, I'm not gonna put it on. But this is mine, right here, and it goes above your nose. It covers your nose, wraps around your head. Have a strap and all that. Have the freaking tube. It goes into the CPAP machine. Mine has a humidifier, so that I don't have a dry throat and wake up with a dry nose. Sometimes I forget to put water in there, and there was like a 1 week period where I was freaking out because my throat was like really irritated. I was getting pain like out of the blue, like annoying pain, like I had splinters in my throat or something, and that was it because I didn't put any water into the humidifier part. So how's yours?
Mine is actually I tried the over the nose one like you have, which just goes over your nose. But as soon as I fall asleep, my mouth opens up because I lay on my back, and as soon as I relax, my jaw drops, and then the air blows right through my nose and right out my mouth, and it's the most annoying feeling in the world, and it wakes me up like that, So I wear a what they call a full face, but I've actually seen ones that completely cover the face.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's like a clear shield. And
it looks like the Prometheus movie.
yeah, like like there's a hazmat spill in your bedroom. But I mean, it's simple. It goes over like that, and I put the headgear would go over. It's made out of like spandex, and it's really soft silicone. I don't know if y'all can see here on the camera. It's really soft silicone, and there's right here. It's real flimsy. I'm amazed it doesn't fall apart real fast. But in here is a real soft foam, and when you put it on, it seals right there against your face, and people say, how can you sleep with that on? But honestly, I don't feel it anymore.
Yeah.
I'm so used to it. And the first night I slept with the CPAP machine, of course I stayed up late the night before to purposely tire myself out so I would be tired enough to sleep with it on. And I tell you what, that next morning when I woke up, I was like, I'm never sleeping without this thing again. I felt
Yeah.
energized. I woke up at like 6:35. I usually get up. I usually drag out of bed at 7:30, and I have to be to work at 8 because I would be so tired. But I woke up at 6:35, fully refreshed, ready to go, and I was amazed. I was like, "Wow, this is how you're supposed to feel when you sleep."
Yeah. Yeah. And I used to get this when I was in the low 200s. So it's not like it was a weight gain thing. It certainly does affect sleep apnea because from what one of the doctors told me, she said is the structure of my jaw. Now Neff, who's also on the post-game report, he's like in the 180s, 190 or something. Not a heavy dude, and he has a slight case of sleep apnea. It's just the way the bone structure has a role to play. Weight, of course,
Hmm.
and doctors have stated that they can't pinpoint exactly what causes it, and there's really no like this is the best method is the most uncomfortable because I've seen mouthpieces that are adjustable. I've seen people get surgery and it wasn't successful where they trimmed the tongue and crazy things like that. I would never do that.
Yeah, they offered me surgery. They said, "Well, we can go in there. We can shave down your throat." I was like, "No, dude, you're not shaving down my throat."
Some people lost their voices or taste buds. It's something, you know what? You got to wear a mask. There's different types of mask. A friend of mine, he has it, and sometimes he rips it off. I have a funny story where one day, because like I shave my head, and when the hair's growing back, the stubble it won't let the freaking strap like adjust freely because it will get
It's like
caught.
Velcro.
Yes. And one night I'm trying to sleep, I'm trying to get comfortable. I just get comfortable, and then the mask shifts a little bit, and you hear the air popping out on the side, and I'm trying to put it back, but because the Velcro is like stuck on my head because my hair is growing back, it just kept on, and finally I got so frustrated I ripped it off and I punched my mask, and the pieces go flying everywhere. And my wife wakes up freaking out. She's like, "What the hell's wrong with you? How are you gonna sleep now?" And I'm like, "Damn, she's right." So me being stubborn, I was like, "I don't need it." So I try to sleep, and all of a sudden, boom! I felt it. Like my heart starts beating real fast. I wake up, and I'm like, "Crap!" So I'm like, "I just broke my mask. I'm screwed." So luckily, it fell apart, but I was able to snap everything back. But the top part where the strap connects to your head,
Uh-huh. The
that,
little T-bar thing.
yes, that broke. So I couldn't strap. I couldn't use the strap. So I wish I took a picture because this was pure ghetto, man. What I did was I put I managed how to put it like the strap through a hole on top or something, and I tied it. And because of that, it kept stretching. So every like few weeks, the strap would stretch and get loose. So I had to keep tying it and tying it. Finally, it looked like a shoelace. That's how thin it got. And she's like, "Babe, you got to get rid of that shit." So I found this website, and I ordered brand new pizzas and everything like that. So it's an expensive machine, dude. Like that machine can cost $1,000.
Yeah, mine is the Philips Respironics, and it has a humidifier on it also, and that thing was $1,500. But thank God, most insurances will cover it aside from your deductible because it's cheaper for them to pay for the CPAP machine and your mask every 3 months and your hose every 6 months or whatever. It's cheaper to pay for that than it is to pay for a heart attack, to pay for a
Mm-hmm.
stroke, to pay for the continued care because you're in a nursing home because of a stroke. So they'll
Yeah.
gladly pay for
Oh yeah.
CPAP
Oh yeah.
therapy.
Now there are times where uh, with sleep apnea, before you even know it, as I was stating, it could be disguised under the fact that you're a gamer and you're staying up 2, 3 in the morning and you're really tired and you wake up with a splitting headache, you can't focus, you feel like you didn't sleep, and you're like, all right, that's due because of gaming. But the thing you need to be aware is Uh, if you're not with a spouse who can tell you, who can, some spouses might not even know that you have apnea, but they might spot it one day and say, babe, you stopped snoring. And then all of a sudden you just started snoring again. Or you can have a relative suddenly spot it. Like I stated, my grandmother just happened to be near my bedroom and she heard it
My
and popped
fiance
out.
spotted mine. She was like, "You snore bad, and then you stop, and then you gasp for air, and then you start
Wow.
snoring again."
Wow.
Yeah.
And as I stated, it will affect many different parts of your body. It will put a lot of stress on your heart, and because it's stressing out your heart, is adding more wear to your heart. Everything's going to work even harder, and your brain needs the oxygen to function. And if you're not breathing and getting the proper oxygen levels, the next day you're going to be worthless. And believe me, it's gradual. Now, I tried sleeping without it. I went on, I started to eat less meat, less fish, poultry. I went borderline vegetarian, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna will myself not to use this freaking mask. I'm gonna lose weight, and I did. I lost like, close to 30 pounds. I was 280 something at one point, and I stopped for about a month. And my wife was like, "Yeah, babe, I don't really hear you snoring that loud, blah blah." It wasn't until one day at work where my coworker was like, "Dude, are you all right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." He's like, "I'm asking you for this and that." I'm like, I know, I heard you, blah blah. And then I went to the train, and I'm standing on the train, and I felt weird. I was like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna get an anxiety attack. I'm not focused. I feel really freaking out of it. Like I felt like I was having an out of body experience. Like I just didn't feel right." And that was because I wasn't using the mask. So it's gradual. Yeah, it's gradual, and it will you won't feel it right away. You might have been living with it for all this time, but just be aware. Just look for the symptoms. Uh, as Derrick stated, he was falling asleep at a stoplight. I'm falling asleep on top of a freaking elevator. Sometimes it's moving. What I used to do to compensate for that was I would take Red Bull with me or the Bulls energy drink. I would have two, one for the afternoon and one for the drive home. Because during the drive home, it was the same thing. I was seeing
Yep.
double because I'm fighting to stay awake. I'm hallucinating. I'm like, how did I reach from here to there? Because I don't remember. And I'm
That's a
smacking
scary feeling when
myself.
you
Oh
when you
yeah, dude.
drive and you've missed a 15 to 20 minute chunk of driving, and you're like, "Oh shit, I was driving." Yeah, it's
You're like, oh, how did I get home?
my what scared me about mine is my job requires me to climb telephone poles sometimes.
Oh, dude.
Free climb where I have just the little 1 inch spikes on the inside of each of my feet, and that's all that holds me up is that little bitty tiny little piece of metal on either side of the pole, and I'll be 25, 30 feet up.
Wow.
Well, I had at work one day, I have a bucket truck and I'm up in the bucket and I felt like numbness and tingling in my left leg. And then it was my left arm and my left hand, and I'm going, this is not good. It was like right down the middle of my body, the left side of my face, and I'm like, I'm having a damn stroke.
Yeah.
So I got, I'm a slave to work. I finished what I was doing, and I'm a man. We always say, it's not that bad. I
Hmm.
keep going. Finished what I was doing, got down, and I called my fiance, and I was like, can you come home and take me to the emergency room? I don't feel good. And it scared her because I'm never like, yo, I need to go to the emergency room or,
Yeah,
this
you
or that.
scared the crap out of her.
Yeah, so she hauls ass home, takes me to the emergency room. And this is in between the time of when I fell asleep at the stoplight and, a few days before, and then waiting for my doctor's appointment. And I went to the emergency room, and the guy was like, he did kind of the stroke check where he's like, smile, make sure both sides of your face go up and down.
Hmm.
And but then I was like, it's still completely numb. And I said, I'm like real sensitive to light and everything right now. And he goes, okay, well, they took me right back and they put me in a CAT scan and checked. They're like, well, you didn't have a stroke. And he goes, how do you, he started asking me questions. And I was telling him, I'm like, and he goes, have you been checked for sleep apnea? And I was like, well, yeah, I have an appointment on, Thursday. He goes, well,
Oh wow.
Let's get that moved up. So they moved it up a few days, and I went to see a neurologist just to make sure everything was okay too. And he was like, "Yeah, dude, it sounds like sleep apnea, and your body's telling you that it's wearing out."
Yeah.
So when I got my mask and everything, the doctor told me, she's like, "You just added about 25 to 30 years onto your life," and that's what scared the shit out of me. And I was like, "Wow!" And that the hardest part for me was from learning the results of the test until the 4 days, 5 days before I got my mask. That where I had to go to sleep at night knowing, hey, I may not wake up tomorrow morning.
Yeah. Yeah.
That scared the shit out of me. You know,
Yeah.
I was worried, and I mean, people laugh when they see the mask and they, oh, that's stupid, that's dumb, but there are so many people that have sleep apnea that are afraid to admit that they have sleep apnea. That's why I'm glad we're doing this. I'm not afraid to admit I have sleep apnea. Hell, I posted pictures of it on Instagram and Twitter at my sleep study. You know, I said, you're now free to walk about the cabin. You know, the bed is at 30,000 feet cruising altitude, because with this on, you know, I look like either I look like Bane or
Yep.
I'm you know, being a fighter pilot. So if somebody gets a laugh out of it, but yet they still go get checked, hey, I'm cool with that.
Yeah. 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 And I've been doing this a long time, podcasting, and one of the things that I enjoy doing is helping people. I like to help consumers try to pick, well, not pick the best product, but try to decide on a product that might benefit them or whatever. Whether it's video games or electronics, I do, do a little of both. But uh, part of what makes me keep podcasting and stuff like that is the fact that I have a voice. I'm going to use it, and I also have, unfortunately, a long history with sleep apnea and gaming. Now, that's fortunate. I love gaming. But living with both is a complex thing because you have to, like, when I go to bed, I don't do it often like I used to because I'm 42 now. And if I stay up past 12, I'm pushing it. Like, my body's like, it's time for you to go to bed, but I'll stay up till 2 in the morning, and I reach for the mask immediately because I'm like, you know what? If I try to nod off now, I'm definitely going to wake up choking. And as you stated, going to bed before having the mask, and that's a great point. That moment when you realize that you do have it and it's made official by a doctor, by a professional, and then up until you get your mask to help you sleep, you're in fear. You fear for your life. You don't want to go to sleep. And I used to go to bed thinking. Sometimes I used to wake up while I was choking, legitimately saying, "This is it. I cannot breathe. This is it. I'm dead." And I used to look at my wife, literally, it would be a few seconds long, but to me, it felt like forever because I'm looking at her and I'm thinking, I can't tell her goodbye. This is it. I'm done. I'm like in my head, it was like I can't breathe at all. I can't breathe. And then all of a sudden, the airways were clear, and I'm like, holy crap. And I thought, at one time, I thought it was, what's that other thing? Acid reflux. Because I don't know about you. Sometimes afterwards, I would get, it would get very acidy.
Yeah, and there was I wondered that too, because I would get my throat was sore.
Mm-hmm.
And I would get like a dull ache right here. And I thought, what is that? And so he's like, oh, that's heartburn, man. But then I talked to the doctor, and they said it's the pain in your throat is from your throat collapsing, closing. And your throat is never supposed to touch front to back.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it sits like that for a while, closed, and then opens again, it's like it'll dry out. And it'll actually you can actually get like an ulcer from it doing that overnight.
Yes.
And just that your chest and your esophagus and everything dry out just from sitting there not breathing, and it's not a good thing to feel, and then you do get heartburn too from that.
There are times, I don't know if it's because maybe I need an adjustment on my machine, maybe I need more air pressure to go in now, because at the time when I did catch it, before when I moved to Florida, I was like in my 220s, and I was trying. I had gotten accepted for court officer exam that I passed, court officer position, but I had to be 215. So I got to the weight, and I felt great. Like I was like, oh my god, I got so much energy, blah blah, blah, because of the weight loss. And then when I got the test, I was lighter, at least 30 to 35 pounds lighter than I am now. So I'm assuming because I'm heavier, maybe they need to increase the pressure.
I had to go up on mine. I started at 6. And at first I was like, well, what is the range of pressure? They can go from like 4 pounds, I think is the lowest it'll go, all the way up to 28 pounds, which is what
Wow.
you air a damn car tire up with. And I was like, how? And I asked the doctor, I was like, what's the deal? She goes, everybody's different. She goes, I have some 300-pound, patients that are at like 8-9 pounds pressure. And she goes, and I have a 95-pound grandmother that's at 22 pounds pressure.
Wow.
It varies on your physical makeup of your throat, and your neck, and everything. Like me, I'm blessed with, I'm cursed with this thick neck that I got from my dad has it, my grandpa has it. I did a lot of exercises, and I kept doing shoulder shrugs, and then it got even worse. And the doctor put mine at 6, and then I went back again. I was like, I told her, I said, it doesn't feel right sometimes. I gained a little bit of weight. She goes, well, let's bump it up to 8 and see how it works, because there's an SD card. Does yours have it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And once a month, I pop that little SD card out, and it's just a micro SD, and I take it to the place, and they download it, and it'll tell them how good I slept, how long I slept, how long I used the machine. It'll tell them how many instances where, because every time you breathe out, the machine registers a change in pressure, and it can actually tell if you're still having apneas or not. And you can adjust your pressures. They can go up or down. They move mine up to 8. I'm probably going to bump it to 9 because, just sometimes I feel like it's not all the way working, but I still wake up feeling refreshed. So
Mine has a bigger card. It doesn't have an SD. It has a big slide-in card. I've had mine probably 3-4 years before you did, so I'm sure mine is a little outdated maybe. But I definitely got to get it checked. There's a way to do it manually where you can increase the pressure manually. Got to do like a system reset and adjust it accordingly. Now, I don't know about you, but in the beginning, I remember my wife was asking me, hey, how does it feel? And I'm getting ready to talk, and all of a sudden all this air just shoots out of my mouth, and I can't talk.
Yeah.
She's laughing, and I'm like, stop. And then like... So sometimes I try just to test out the pressure, I open my mouth to see if it feels like the first time, and it doesn't. Maybe I'm just used to it.
They say you do get used to it, because I do the same thing with mine at night. I feel like, man, it doesn't feel like it's working.
But I'll push it, pop it open, and I hear the air. And
yeah. Well, on mine too, since it covers mine covers my nose and my mouth, and it covers the bottom of my chin, and that's what holds my mouth kind of closed. I remember when I first got it and I first tried it, it kind of blew my mouth open inside, inflated my cheeks. So that's how I check to see if it still feels right. And you get used to it. So, I'm used to it really. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, so I have to get a different. Maybe I'll try the mask you have. They also said that your mouth is. I forgot what they said. Part of the problem is when your mouth is closed, I believe, fully closed, or something along that line. No, fully open. So when your mouth is open, that's when you have more danger of your muscles relaxing.
Yeah, your tongue falls into the back of your throat.
And they designed these mouthpieces to help keep pressure. Some even push your jaw forward to give you a little air. That's all craziness. But because I have another freaking weird condition, not a condition, but they said I have unusually large jaw muscles or something, and it could be from the apnea as well, that my mouth would just freaking grind, like I would close it shut. So to me, that statement about having your mouth open it kind of, for me, I don't believe it because my mouth is, I have a bad habit of closing it shut. And I had so much that, I wore out like some tissue or something, and I was getting these real bad pain in my left side. So sometimes I got to wear a mouthpiece to go to sleep, like when I feel my mouth doing that. So I'm all screwed up. I got the mask, the freaking mouthpiece, and who knows? Maybe one has to do with the other. Maybe the apnea was the cause of me tightening my mouth at night. Maybe I'm going to bed. Maybe at that time I was going to bed stressed out, knowing that maybe I might not wake up and things along that line. So I strongly recommend that if you're a little overweight for your height, you don't have to be extremely overweight. You could have like Derrick has a big neck. Me, I have a small jaw, something like that. I forgot what they call. What she told me. It could be anything. As I stated, Neff is in shape. The dude works out constantly, and he has a light. A light case of sleep apnea, but that light case, if left undetected or treatable or untreated, excuse me, it could become mild, and then it could become extreme. Anytime you lose oxygen to your brain, you're screwing yourself up. It's not healthy at all.
They say that snoring is a sign of sleep apnea.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can snore and not have sleep apnea, but a majority of the time is if you're snoring, it's because your throat is closing in the back, and that wind rushing through there is what makes the snoring sound. Listen to your partner, your mate, your friends, your family members. If you ever go on vacation and somebody snores a lot, then they stop snoring, and then they start snoring again, gasping, like that little. Some people laugh and like, look at that choking sound he makes. He snores really bad. That's apnea, man. That's not a joke. That's apnea. You might want to tell them, be like, yo, go get checked.
Yeah, that's somebody just waking up from like near death.
Yeah, that's like if you've ever seen anybody, I'm sure everybody's seen it. Watch World Star Hip Hop. Somebody gets knocked out and they're laying on the ground. They make that snoring sound, and then that real deep, like, that's the base of your brain, dude. That's the animalistic part of your brain telling your body, breathe, breathe, breathe. That's the sound that you're not supposed to sound like that. That's not good. That's like your body's last ditch effort before you die.
Yeah.
So that's what bothered me most was I hear my dad snore like that, and I tell him, dude, my grandpa has sleep apnea, but my dad is just so damn stubborn. He won't go get checked, and I tell him, dude, you snore and stop and gasp. I said, that's apnea. Oh, I'll be all right. Like, okay.
Yeah, it's scary, man. It's scary. I listen to my son every once in a while just to make sure if I pass by, just to make sure he's sleeping all right. And because my wife has a coworker, her son is 6 years old, he has it. So it can happen anytime, and it's scary. So what I recommend, I'm sure Derrick recommends as well, pay attention to your body. Listen to what your body's telling you. If you suffer from headaches and you think, oh, I need coffee, if you can't concentrate while you're reading something and you're like, oh, I should have never played, Gears of War till 3 a.m, or if like around noon you just start feeling tired, and I don't mean like sleepy, I mean tired to where your body feels sluggish, mentally you feel sluggish, you don't want to talk to people, you can't concentrate, like somebody could literally stand in front of you and talk to you and you have no idea what the fuck they just said.
Yep. It's like your brain is working overtime, running out of juice.
Mush. Exactly. And believe me, that if you ever felt that way, it doesn't mean you have it, but it is a symptom, and it's something that, believe me, can mess up a lot, and it can mess you up, and it could kill you. If you're a gamer, and if you're familiar with Giant Bomb, as soon as Ryan Davis died, I had a strong feeling that's what it was. I was like, it had to be apnea, because the guy was overweight, He had a similar structure to mine, facial structure to mine, and those guys worked their ass off. So I could only imagine that they weren't getting large amounts of sleep. And it's unfortunate that he went so long. And, obviously it was fatal. And, he probably figured he was all right. He probably figured, oh, with some Red Bull, some coffee, I'll be able to make it through the day. And that's what a lot of us do. And I did it. And I was addicted to freaking Red Bull for a while. And it's just no joke. And if we can share our stories, embarrass ourselves a little bit, showing our mask, sharing our horror stories, because that's what they are. And if you're watching and you can say, holy crap, sometimes I do feel that way, or my wife complains or my husband complains about the way I snore, let me get checked. Yep. That's all we can ask for. And if we can help you do that, then we've accomplished what we set out to do.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that have it. Shaquille O'Neal has sleep apnea. William Shatner has sleep apnea. Rosie O'Donnell. There's lots of people. Reggie, of course, that's what killed Reggie White.
Yep.
But there's, that's some people have it and refuse to wear the mask, and those are usually the ones that pass away. Or there are some that just they found out too late and their body's too worn out. It's a big deal. Take care of yourself. Listen to your body. Don't wear it wears your heart out. That's the biggest thing. It wears your heart out. and I've felt that feeling. Yeah.
And that's good. Sometimes I still wake up with my heart beating 100 miles an hour, and it's like I have my freaking mask on. What the hell's going on? So it could be a case of the air leaking and blah blah blah, and those are things I got to deal with. Those are my problems, my gamer problems. So, but I go to bed. I make a few adjustments. I go to bed and I wake up, feeling energetic. Sometimes I still feel tired because I went to bed late, but that's under normal circumstances. Right, but even with that, my body's still screwed up from my previous bouts without the mask.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm used to sleeping with my CPAP mask. It's easy to get used to. Don't give up. Just keep trying. That's all I can say to people is, if you do have sleep apnea, don't give up. Keep using your mask. It gets easier. You may have the wrong kind of mask. Go get fitted for another one.
Yeah, one tip that if you snore and you're feeling these symptoms and you're in the process of going to get checked up or you're still unsure, try sleeping on your side. That is one way to combat it. It's not a surefire thing because I used to wake up choking on my side as well. So as Derrick and I were talking about, every individual is going to respond to apnea differently. Some people could have it, not wear the mask, and still manage to function because they're used to functioning, which is what I'm not doing right now. They're used to living a certain way, having a certain amount of energy during the day, and they learn to adjust accordingly. But most oftentimes than not, if you have it, you need the mask or you need some type of assistance to help you sleep. Sleeping on your side is a good way to sleep better, especially for you and your spouse or whoever's in the house. But definitely don't ignore it. That's all we can tell you. Any last words before we leave, Derrick?
If anybody has any questions, feel free to contact me on Twitter at DerrickGott007. Leave a comment on this video. We'll answer your questions. We'll answer your comments. We're here to help. If you have any questions, just let us know.
Absolutely. My Twitter is at JVB. Hit me up on Twitter and let me know if the same thing. If you're feeling these symptoms, if maybe something I didn't cover in this particular episode or in this video that you might want me to answer, you could also leave comments on the video, on the comment section, under the video. Leave comments asking questions, your experiences. Leave us your experiences, or let us know your experiences with apnea. Maybe you know something we don't. Maybe you have tips on how people can sleep a little better if they don't want to wear the mask. And just share your experiences, because this is something that not too many people want to talk about because of the embarrassment factor. They think you have to be fat and overweight. That's not the case. It can happen to anyone. It's just a scary thing not to. It's the silent killer. Literally, it's the silent killer. You know, a lot of people, they say they die in their sleep. Well, this is probably why. And it's a scary thing to go to bed like that. So we don't want to scare you. If you feel, if right now, if you're watching this video and you manage to stay at the end and you have the symptoms we're talking about, please call somebody, look up a specialist, call your physician first, then he or she will recommend a specialist. And in between that time that you're waiting to see a professional, try to sleep on your back. Try to, yeah, on your side. Excuse me, yeah. And try to set a regular sleep schedule. Like, try to sleep at 9, you know, try to get a full 8 hours of sleep on your side, and try not to eat anything heavy at night, nothing with acid, because those things are going to play a role in not letting you sleep. And just, you know, try to exert yourself throughout the day so that at night when you're ready to sleep, you're ready to sleep. And please, on your back. I mean, on your side, excuse me, sorry. I always used to sleep on my side, but with the mask, I got to sleep on my damn back, which is still...
I'm the same way. Yeah, I sleep on my back.
Sometimes I say screw it, and I go on my side, and then the mask slips a little bit, and then I wind up on my back anyway. Somehow. The other day, I took it off. I don't know how. I woke up with it off, and I felt like crap. Like, my son's talking to me about Halo, and I'm just looking at him, and I'm like, I know my son is talking to me. I'm trying to pay attention, but oh my God, I can't focus, you know? And it was like, oh man, I hate this feeling. So yeah, sometimes you do wake up and it's not on. Somehow you took it off.
I've taken mine off in my sleep. Most of the times I'll wake up a little later and put it back on. I've fallen asleep without it on. Like, I've gone to bed at, say, 11 and fallen asleep without it on. Just watching TV, laying in bed watching TV, and I'll fall asleep without it on. And I'll wake up at like 2 or 3 and, oh crap, reach over and put it on.
Well, at least you didn't wake up like choking. Like, my wife will usually wake me up if I nod out while we watch TV and tell me to put on the mask. Or I'll wake up the old-fashioned way where I'm gasping. Not as bad as I used to, but just like a slight little gasp where my body's like, hey, you're forgetting something. And then my heart's racing, you know, and that's the scary part, where your heart's racing, it's beating, and it's like, oh crap, and then I got to do, you know, breathing exercise for everything to calm down, and then I put on the mask. So, yeah, like Bane said, I was nothing until I wore the mask. Or, I don't know, something like that.
There is one type of apnea we didn't mention, and it's called central apnea, and that's when your brain fails to tell your body to take a breath.
Yeah, dude.
That takes just a little bit different machine. That takes a BiPAP machine, and that's all that does is it notices you didn't breathe, so it forces a breath. Much kind of like a respirator, but it doesn't go down your throat or anything like that. It just same kind of mask, just blows a little more air. It's the biggest thing is this is all treatable. This is the best way to treat it, and it's easily done.
Right now is the best way is wearing a Bane mask, you know. Yep. And that's why Bane was so freaking angry. He had to freaking wear a sleep apnea mask all the freaking damn time. He had an extreme case where he was awake and he still had apnea. So poor Bane, you know. I don't blame him for wanting to destroy Gotham. Yep. But anyway, this is going to wrap up a very special episode of the Post-Game Report. Once again, you can find me on Twitter at JVB. You can find Derrick _got 007.
No, it's just at, and then Derrick Gott. That's DERRICK GOTT 007.
There you go. At least I didn't call you Derrick. What was it I called you that one time? Derrick
Scott.
Yeah, Derrick Scott. So leave us some feedback. Let us know if you like this video. Leave a like. Subscribe if you haven't, and please don't ignore this. If you never interact with us at all, at least the very least, do yourself the favor and get it checked. If you have any of these symptoms, it just takes one symptom and you might be surprised. So don't ignore it. So until next time, thank you for watching the video. We'll speak to you later. Bye. And as soon as I find the button to later.